Super Dirt Week, racing's biggest party, is all new this year. It's racing, music, camping, and a huge Saturday night finale. See your dirt car racing heroes battle wheel to wheel all week for a chance at glory. Get your tickets at superdirtweek.com or call 844-DIRT-TICKS. The 52nd running of Super Dirt Week, October 7th through the 12th. Be there.
Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back, Newhouse Afternoon, ESPN 97.7, QSportsTalk.com. I'm Jacob Charno, joined with my co-host Maria Wainscott. We have a lot to talk about on our second show. I'm very, very excited, so let's just get right into it. Maria, you were in Las Vegas for that UNLV game. Why don't you tell us how it went, what the atmosphere was like, and what the Orange can do, good and bad, heading into their game tomorrow against NC State?
Well, we're so excited to be back with you. It's been an exciting week off. The Orange really showed what they could do on the road. Man, the last time we had a show, it was Syracuse about to go up against Holy Cross, and man, that was the get-right game that they needed. And then certainly going on the road, I was impressed. This was the first road game for new head coach Fran Brown, and talk about a statement win. That was the very first time since 2001 that Syracuse, as a football program, was able to secure 2 ranked wins in a season. I mean, it was electric. The fact that we had so many fans travel to Las Vegas too. Coach Fran Brown earlier in a Q Sports Talk episode this week shared that it didn't even feel like it was a road game. It felt like it was a home game for Syracuse football just because of the rowdiness of that home crowd. It was so exciting and truly one of my most favorite games I've been to. Definitely my most favorite Syracuse game I've been to so far. But I will say, we got the good, we got the bad, and we got some of the ugly as well. Let's kick it off with a quick reality check here, right? Okay, so there's a lot of hype around Syracuse football, as there has been this entire season, but with this road win, there's more hype than ever. Let's check in, though. So Syracuse is a play away from losing to UNLV, but we're also a 4th and 9 play away from being an undefeated squad. And you and I were talking before the show already. The ACC is shaping up to be one of the toughest conferences to play in. I mean, we're looking at UNLV, we're looking at Pitt, we're looking at Miami. I mean, there's some really tough opponents that we're going to go up against soon here. And Syracuse is a formidable team. So looking at the good, I am super encouraged by LaQuint Allen Jr. and Aronde Gadsden. Just the productivity that they were able to, show in this road game was exactly what we were hoping for when we talked about the Holy Cross matchup. Aronde Gadsden had a career high game, 10 catches for 142 yards. He takes the lead in school history for the most receptions by a tight end ever, and also the most receiving yards ever by a tight end here at this school. Pretty good week if you're Aronde Gadsden, and that makes me really excited moving into NC State. Same thing with LaQuint Allen Jr. We were really nervous about not seeing productivity from him. Was it a confidence issue? Was it a coaching issue? Was it just a fact that he didn't fit in the scheme that they were looking to play offensively? I don't know. Kyle McCord never said anything about that. He was really excited to get the ball to LaQuint a little bit more. But a lot of praise goes to LaQuint Allen Jr. 4 touchdowns. I mean, come on, for a sleeper that's, been having a kind of a tough season so far. 4 touchdowns. I mean, that is remarkable. Also, he broke a tackle in the goal line for his 4th touchdown to win the game. And he rushed 19 times for 71 yards for 2 rushing touchdowns. I am super encouraged moving forward, and I'm excited to see what these offensive weapons can do moving forward against NC State.
Yeah, absolutely. And you look at the NC State matchup, and just looking at the statistics, NC State, they have one of the worst overall defenses in the ACC, allowing 33.7 points per game. That is the most in the ACC, but they do have the 6th best pass defense in the conference. Yeah. And you mentioned LaQuint Allen, and I think that the run game against NC State is going to be crucial. Because you look at LaQuint Allen's game, like you mentioned, 19 carries, 71 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 2 through the air. And then Yassine Willis, the freshman, he's a Jersey guy. I like Yassine Willis. He's gritty. 8 carries, 67 yards, and a touchdown, too. Having that 2-headed monster in the backfield, if Yassine Willis can keep going as a freshman, he's been in that backfield and starting to kind of come out of his shell a little bit. But they're both of their games against UNLV gives me some hope that this is going to be something that they're going to start prioritizing on offense. Because you look at Kyle McCord, threw the ball 63 times in that game against UNLV. Listen, wow. Kyle McCord has been awesome for this Orange team. But 63 passing attempts, like we mentioned on our show before Holy Cross, it's just unsustainable if you want to start beating those teams when you go up against Pitt, when you go up against Miami, when you play Cal. Those kinds of matchups, you're going to have to be able to run the ball.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you mentioned the 63 passing attempts. I mean, that leads the FBS in passing attempts. What an incredible stat. But, with a lot of opportunities to do great things by passing the ball, you're also opening yourself up for a lot of mistakes. There was a little bit of sloppiness happening, and NC State's defense, their pass defense, is something that we really should tread lightly with. I mean, they've forced at least one interception in 4 of their last 6 games so far, and NC State has shown a consistent ability to disrupt opposing quarterbacks. And since we've got an incredibly strong air raid offense in Kyle McCord in our scheme, that's going to be something that we need to look out for. Yeah,
absolutely. And you look at the NC State matchup against their freshman quarterback. I mean, Devin Leary gets hurt, which was pretty big for the Orange. Not good for NC State, obviously. But now they have freshman quarterback CJ Bailey coming in. CJ Bailey, 6'6", 190. The man has the frame of a great quarterback.
Right.
But he is a true freshman. And if you're Coach Brown, you're bringing out some confusing, complicated defenses, maybe looks he hasn't seen. He's a guy that can move. He didn't really show it in that game last week against Wake Forest, but he's a guy that can move. You just have to keep him contained. NC State, they don't have a receiver that's going to tear you apart single-handedly like that. So the Orange, they just have to play their game.
I agree completely. I mean, let's look at this NC State team a little bit and our history against them. I mean, last year we were ranked, the last meeting, it was number 18 Syracuse went into a matchup against number 15 NC State with an undefeated 5-0 record in 2022. The Orange, they also caught a break due to an injury last time we played them as well. And, we held the Wolfpack to, 24-9 win for us, which was pretty exceptional. And then, we're coming into kind of a similar situation here with an injured quarterback again. And last week, they kind of had a soul-crushing loss to Wake Forest and Hank Bachmeier showing up and showing off against them at home. Again, we're going in and facing off against NC State at home. That's another tough game. A home crowd for NC State is tough for us. And also, it's an 8 p.m. start. That's something, primetime matchup again. We did it against UNLV, and now we're going into NC State. It's going to be tough again. But last game, they faced Wake Forest. They used a 13-play, 65-yard drive to take the lead. Wake Forest did over NC State, and it eventually ended in, like I said, soul-crushing loss. It was 34-30 against the Wolfpack, and it was overshadowed by a big hit to their quarterback, who is still in concussion protocol. And as you mentioned, we've got CJ Bailey out there now looking to be under center, and there's a lot of questions there. We don't really know what we're going to see against this quarterback, but I think Syracuse just has to do what they do best. But I do think we have to limit that air raid offense. It's time to figure out the run game if we are Kyle McCord. It really is. And now that we've got LaQuint Allen, his confidence back, especially after that amazing showing at UNLV, it's time to get him doing some serious rushing productivity.
I mean, especially when you look at the fact that this team and Fran Brown coming in put such an emphasis on the trenches and building that offensive line up. You got to use them in the run game. They've been awesome for Kyle McCord. He's had a ton of time back there, but now it's about getting the guys on the ground rushing, controlling time of possession. They obviously did last game, but you got to keep it on the ground, keep the ball in the hands, limit the possibility of mistakes for Kyle McCord, and you do that by running the ball efficiently, back the defense up a little bit, force them to respect the run, and open up the pass.
Absolutely. There's something else we need to talk about, and we will get into it a bit more throughout the segments today, but we also have to talk a little bit about the bad, right? So we know what we're strong at in Syracuse football, but something that has been a recurring issue for the team is the special teams. We've heard it a million times before. It's coach speak. Special teams make special teams. But we were not looking exceptional on that front against UNLV.
No.
Again, like we said, our last show, we talked about, what we wanted to see against Holy Cross, and this was an issue again in Holy Cross. It was the special teams falling short. Fran Brown came out in multiple press conferences saying we're spending more time in practice working on special teams, and that's again what they did this past week because we had the same mistakes against UNLV, and it was a massive problem. It really flared up in an ugly way against UNLV, and it was in the worst times during the game where we really needed to convert. There were 2 blown punt coverages nearly costing Syracuse the game. And again, like I mentioned, Fran Brown said during those Bloody Orange Tuesday practices, they are really spending time working on not blowing these easy point plays.
Yeah, I mean, you look at that game against UNLV, that's a 3-point game. Like, that's a field goal. You can't have those kinds of mistakes. There's 3 levels to the team: offense, defense, special teams. All of them are just as important as each other. You want to look, even an example in the NFL, the Tennessee Titans have had an awful special teams unit this season so far, and it's cost them a lot of games, and I'm afraid that when you start playing those tight games against those conference opponents, like it could be this week against NC State, like we mentioned against all those other ACC teams, that could start costing them games, especially in such a winnable conference this season for the Orange.
Agreed. I mean, this is ours for the taking, this conference. I mean, Syracuse has all the weapons. They have all the pieces of the puzzle. If they can just put it together right, we could be a top team in the ACC. Right now, we were saying, are we top 5? It's tough. The competition is really stiff this year. And also, we're going to get into this more in our second segment, but we need to talk about the sloppy second quarters. We start out strong, and we've seen this now multiple times. It's becoming a pattern. And then in the second quarter, we fall short. We get outscored. It's something that we just cannot afford to do against NC State.
Absolutely. We'll talk about it more after the break. Newhouse Afternoon will be back in just a few moments. Nice.
It's all good.
You guys are clear.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. I don't know what was happening. I was like...
Yeah, there was an echo. It was all right.
I was
I
like,
figured it out.
Yeah, you did great. That always bothers me.
Yeah. So we'll go into second quarter stuff.
Yep.
And then just move into... Should we move into the Monday night game after that?
Yeah, I think what I want to do, I'm just going to chat really quickly about that sloppy second quarter. So like how we were outscored. Yes,
Yeah.
We got you. No,
it's all
it's
good.
fine. It's all good. Rebounded, as long as it didn't look horrible to you. Maria. Yep. No, you're fine. Yeah, of course. I got you. Thank you. As long as it didn't look bad to you, that's all I care about. Okay, awesome. Thank you. Okay. Good stuff.
So what'd you say you wanted to go into for?
Just like chatting quickly about the second quarters, like the fact that we got outscored 21-3. Orange were outgained, 146 yards to 93 total yards in the second 15 minutes of the game. I think that's important to say, and then we can move into whatever else you want to talk about.
Cool.
So it's going to be more Syracuse football there. And then what else did you want to talk about in that segment?
Just like the Jets. We'll talk the Jets-Bills game,
okay.
Just because we have the whole third segment for baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't. I think I don't need the full 11 minutes to talk about the Jets-Bills game.
Okay.
Just stuff about Solid getting fired, what that means for their team and the organization.
Mm-hmm.
And just briefly preview the Monday night game.
Are you a Jets fan?
I am a Jets fan.
You're a Jets fan. Okay,
Yeah.
so I'll ask you a little bit about how you feel about that.
Yeah.
As well. Yeah. We're going to split this down the middle because I am going to have more to say about Syracuse there. Just
Perfect.
how all of that is going.
a.m. ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University. This is Newhouse Afternoon.
Welcome back, Newhouse Afternoon. I'm Jacob Charno, joined with my co-host Muriel Wainscott, ESPN 97.7 Syracuse and QSportsTalk.com. This hour of Newhouse Afternoon is powered by Drivers Village Cicero. Go to dvoffers.com for more info. Maria, let's keep talking about this upcoming game against NC State. We talked about the good and the bad, so let's talk a little bit about the ugly, which you alluded to right before our break. The second quarter for this football team.
Yes.
Let's talk about it.
The second quarter slump. We got to talk about it, unfortunately. We've seen so much good from Syracuse, but we also have seen some issues that are just recurring. And now, since it's been a pattern, it's time to talk about the ugly. I don't know if these back-to-back second quarter slumps are a product of poor in-game adjustments or decisions by our coaching staff, or it's a mental thing by the guys. They're kind of, too excited from the first quarter, and it's sort of a trap quarter right there. But we cannot allow this to happen against NC State. I've seen us also play down to the level of our opponents. I think Syracuse should be ranked, and what we've seen from NC State hasn't necessarily been too impressive. No offense, but I do think that Syracuse certainly has the upper hand. So this is another opportunity for us to play up, play higher than the level of the team that we're playing at, and play to the standard that we know we can play to. It's also wild to comprehend what we've seen from Syracuse in the first half over the past two games. The Orange have looked like Kansas City Chiefs at their best, right? Like, I've seen Kyle McCord mirror Patrick Mahomes more than several times in these games, and especially in the first quarter, especially against Holy Cross, really. And then the second quarter rolls around, and the Orange look worse than bad. Yeah. Really, it's that first quarter, and I really get my confidence up. I'm like, oh, we got this in the bag. Then the second quarter comes and it's like, oh, we're letting these guys back in. The Syracuse Orange were actually outscored 21-3 in the second quarter against UNLV. They were also outgained 146 yards to 93 in total yards in the second 15 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I think a big reason for that, you look at the approach to the game, right? You have a game script as a team, as an offense heading in. You have a game script for the first couple drives. And then once that falls apart, after you get through those plays, can you adapt? Can you call those plays on the go? And that's something that I haven't really seen from Syracuse, especially in the second quarter. This team looks good in the first quarter when they start the game, and then when they come out in the third quarter. And this team plays well late. But it's that second quarter when that first half game script kind of falls apart. Can you adapt? Can you make those changes? And that's something that I think just needs to change for the Orange.
Right. I think people forget, too, Syracuse has shut out its opponents in the first quarter.
Right.
It's not just, we're slow to start and we're holding the team off a little bit in terms of their productivity, but we have shut out teams in the first quarter. It was 14-0. We grabbed an early lead, and it was 152 yards of offense to 47 in the first quarter. I mean, that is absolutely dominant by Syracuse, and so letting another team in is certainly an issue. I mean, I don't know if it necessarily belongs with the players in terms of responsibility, but head coach Fran Brown has talked about several times in his press conferences, and we've even talked about it on this show before. He's talked about taking accountability for those moments where he puts his players in positions to not make the plays, to not execute, to not pivot. And that's not something that we can afford to do against NC State.
Yeah, without a doubt. So let's transition here a little bit into some NFL football. We talked enough about the Orange's game against NC State coming up, but I want to talk about the New York Jets, because earlier in the week, this is my team, the New York Jets, they fired their head coach, Robert Saleh. Saleh had a 20-36 record with the team. That's just unacceptable. I understand he's had 5 different quarterbacks, all this, and now he's out Aaron Rodgers. And this team is 2-3 to start the season, and they've lost 2 games now that I think they absolutely should have won in Denver and in London against Minnesota. Their defensive coordinator, Jeff Ulbrich, will take over as interim head coach. Nathaniel Hackett, their offensive coordinator, the report came out after Saleh was fired that he was planning on demoting Nathaniel Hackett anyway. Ulbrich did that. Todd Downing, their passing game coordinator, will now be calling plays. And there's been a lot of criticism towards this decision, which I don't understand, because 20-36 as head coach, that's an unacceptable record, especially with the team they have out there. But what this does, rather than firing Hackett, firing their entire staff, what firing Saleh does now is it lights a fire under everybody's seat in that building, especially general manager Joe Douglas, who doesn't have a contract extension lined up for after this year. you have to go do something to make this team better. You have to. Because Garrett Wilson is getting double teamed. They're sitting in cover 2 against him. You can't get any production out of him. You look at last week, he had 22 targets. That's why that production came from that. Allen Lazard has had a really solid year comparative to last year with Aaron Rodgers, but you need another weapon. Because you draft Malachi Corley from Western Kentucky, and he has yet to see the field. You need that guy, and that needs to be Devontae Adams.
Yeah, I think some of the heat that this organization is getting right now is unfortunately just the timing, right? So the record is what? It's respectable, 2-3 at this point in the season, okay, right? This next Monday night game could potentially move them to be 500 on the season so far. That's a big deal. And I think a lot of the heat is just, like I said, coming from timing. Is this change to the organization really going to be what the team and the organization needs at this point to move the team forward?
Yeah, I think that, yes, I do. I do. I think when you fire your head coach midway through the year, it has statistically, when you look at it, never really worked. But at the same time, the teams that are firing their coaches are usually 0-4 to start the season or 0-5 to start the season.
Antonio Pierce.
Antonio Pierce. I mean, you look at Antonio Pierce. He got an extension, right? It worked for him. But no team has ever made the playoffs that has fired their coach midway through a season.
Fascinating.
I think that is going to change this year. Maybe that's biased. Maybe that's biased, but I do think that is going to change. When you preview this game that they have against Buffalo coming up on Monday Night Football, Aaron Rodgers, he's playing hurt. He messed up his ankle pretty badly last week, but the Jets, for however bad they have been, and however many games that they should have won that they lost, they are still, if they win against Buffalo, in sole possession of first place in the AFC East. And for the Jets, it's been very fortunate that the Patriots have not been good. It's been very fortunate that the Dolphins have been injured and banged up and haven't been good either. Buffalo also has been unimpressive to start this season. Comparative to what they have done in years past. The most important thing, if I am the Jets, heading into Monday night against Buffalo, is getting this run game going. And we talked about it with Syracuse, and now we're going to talk about it with the Jets. Because Breece Hall, without a doubt, one of the most talented running backs in the league, should not be averaging 3 yards per carry flat. That cannot happen. It's not a winning way of football, and part of it is on the offensive line. Part of it is on Breece. Breece looks a step slower. You have to give Braylon Allen a chance. You have to work Breece Hall in the passing game a lot more when he lines up out wide. He is way more productive and has been way more productive, but a lot of it comes down to this interior offensive line, but a lot of it comes down to the fact that Braylon Allen, just when he's in, makes Breece Hall look like a worse running back. I would love to get your thoughts on this because I might be biased, but when you just watch Breece Hall play, he hits the hole and he just doesn't look the same as when Braylon Allen, that 20-year-old, just absolute tank of a man in that backfield, hits the hole hard, is averaging a whole yard and a half more per carry than Breece is.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no reason for that, and I agree with you in the sense that it was time. It was time for the coach to go. However, do you think he took the blame for all of the panic and he was sort of the scapegoat for all of these deficiencies by the Jets?
I think the issue is that a lot of what Robert Saleh has been saying is coach speak. And he's been saying the same thing for the 3 years that he's been with this team.
Right.
And nothing has changed. We knew that this defense was going to be good when he came here. We knew that this defense was going to be good because of Jeff Ulbrich and because of Robert Saleh. And you look at what he's done in the past. And Saleh was a fantastic defensive coordinator. And he was definitely a personality guy for this team. He would get them hyped up, all gas, no break. It seemed like all break, no gas for the last 5 weeks of this season. Yeah. Because you look at this year, right? They beat Tennessee. They were handed a win against Tennessee. Great, you beat the New England Patriots at home in your home opener. They are arguably the worst team in football right now. Then you lose a game that you shouldn't have against Denver. Then you lose a game that you shouldn't have against Minnesota. And if the Jets beat Denver, if the Jets win one of those games, does Robert Saleh still have a job? Probably. But the reality is he didn't, and he put them in a position where they needed a kick. They needed a game-winning kick in the rain against Denver, and this offense has yet to be able to move the ball. It just felt like Saleh was more stubborn towards what he wanted than what was good for the team. Yeah. And I think it was unproductive, and I think this could be the spark that the Jets need with a new play caller, new head coach, whether it's interim or not, new head coach. And then you have Aaron Rodgers really being able to lead this team and hopefully look a lot better against Buffalo than he did against Minnesota.
Hopefully it's the action that gives the Jets the fire under themselves that they really need. Or it could be exactly the situation that Buffalo needs to exploit the weaknesses of the Jets.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Jets could get it done. They're at home. They're in those retro jerseys, which are my favorite ever. So it could be a jersey bet for me. But we're going to go to break real quick. Newhouse Afternoon. We'll be back shortly.
You guys are clear.
Awesome.
This team makes me so mad.
I know.
This team is so frustrating. So we'll go into some baseball in the third one.
Okay. We will do that. We can also talk a little bit about Thursday night football as well. There as well. If we want to, we could also start with Thursday night and then move into baseball because I feel like baseball will take a bit more of the time. And since we're
definitely
segueing from football. Alrighty. Let's see, what is the timestamp on this one? 41. Okay. Good stuff. Yeah, we'll kick it off with I've got some stuff to say about Thursday night and Brock Purdy and
yeah, the Seahawks are just really not that good.
I know. They're close. That's the other thing is that they're close, but not quite.
Geno Smith is just like all-time mid. When you have Geno Smith
really
throwing
like
the ball,
him.
I mean, me too.
I
but
really like Geno Smith.
he's gonna regress so hard in the next I thought it was gonna be one more year, but it might be this year, unfortunately. I mean, they're 3-3. They're really not that awful.
Yeah.
But you lose a game to the Giants that you shouldn't be losing.
Yeah.
Got to get Jackson Smith and Jigba more involved.
Oh gosh, yeah.
He's so good.
I always forget that they have him. He's amazing.
He's a side character on this offense, which can't happen.
Yeah.
Like the Niners just like this guy Isaac Garando getting 99 yards on 10 carries is obscene.
It is crazy.
Jordan Mason didn't even play an entire half, and he had 73 yards rushing.
Yeah, I think another, interesting thing too is just like, they're still surviving from, Christian McCaffrey not being there. I think is an interesting piece of the story.
Who knows when that guy's going to play football again?
I don't know. No idea. But I think that was my biggest takeaway is, they are still so productive with Kittle. Great.
And anytime you have to go to a different country to get your injury, to get a second opinion on your injury, it's usually not good.
No, not good. Not good at all.
The Game. Watch your favorite ESPN Syracuse sports talk shows on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today. Broadcasting live from the campus of Syracuse University.
Welcome back, Newhouse Afternoon. I'm Jacob Charno, joined with Maria Wainscott. Back on ESPN 97.7 Syracuse and QSportsTalk.com. Let's talk. We just talked a little bit about NFL that's upcoming. Let's talk about the game that happened last night. The San Francisco 49ers beat the Seattle Seahawks 36-24 in a little NFC West matchup. Let's talk.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Let's talk.
I thought it was a great game. It's Brock Purdy versus Geno Smith. We're going to get some great air raid attacks going on. And honestly, I was interested to just see how San Fran fared without Christian McCaffrey. Just how productive were they being with the offensive weapons that they still have, who aren't injured, who have been reliable from them year to year. Purdy was firing on all cylinders. No surprise there, as he has been. He's so consistent. And honestly, I was pretty impressed by their red zone offense, at least in the first half. Crazy comparison to make here, but I kind of feel like Syracuse and San Fran were mirroring each other in terms of that first quarter offense. I mean, they were absolutely electric in that first half, the 49ers were. And then towards the second quarter, and then, of course, the second half, they were kind of asleep, and they let the Seahawks come back. It was all Seahawks in the second half, making it 23-17. They scored early in the fourth and also on their first drives of each quarter. The 49ers, they just couldn't get it together in the second quarter until they felt like the game was finally getting away from them. So I think that's sort of an interesting, playing philosophy that I've seen from San Fran since they've lost their biggest playmaker in Christian McCaffrey. Also, San Fran had two rookie defenders snatch their first interceptions during a couple key moments of the game. I mean, I think San Fran is seriously a contender again this year to make it pretty far. Yeah, the thing I want to talk about from this game, and it's not about the game, but more about the San Francisco culture that they have. You have this kid, Isaac Guerendo, come in. Mm-hmm. Jordan Mason goes down. First, Christian McCaffrey goes down. You have this guy, Jordan Mason, come in and produce. Mm-hmm. Then Jordan Mason goes down midway through last night's game. Then you have this kid, Isaac Guerendo, come out. Guerendo had a chance to have his first ever touchdown. First ever NFL touchdown. It was like a 75-yard run, and he slid down at the 1. So that the 49ers could win the game. And that just says so much about the culture that Kyle Shanahan has built in San Francisco over his tenure there. Mm-hmm. And I can promise you that there are plenty of other teams that running back is getting into the end zone. This is an unselfish squad. Everyone has said it you've seen it year in, year out. Guys come in and not that everybody's replaceable, but Kyle Shanahan and this Niners team can really make anybody work. We saw it with Brock Purdy. We saw it with Jordan Mason. We've seen it at Raheem Mostert, Tevin Coleman, just these guys through the years. JaMychal Hasty for the Niners. Like, these random running backs. And it's all about the culture, all about that offensive line, building it from within the trenches. Deebo Samuel had quite a game, 3 catches, but 102 yards and a touchdown. George Kittle, 5 for 58 and 2 touchdowns. It's been awesome watching this 49ers team kind of get back into it. And yeah, they're 3-3, but this team is without a doubt a contender in the NFC. Yeah, I was impressed with what I saw from Seattle as well, but I think it was really the battle of the better quarterback last night. And unfortunately, Geno Smith, often missed his targets. He was overthrowing quite a bit last night, and they ended the game with 9 penalties for 69 yards. Yeah, unacceptable. That's unacceptable. Self-destruct like that. No, you cannot. And I think a lot of that comes with the new coach there, with Mike McDonald. Mm-hmm. You have Pete Carroll there for forever, probably 1,000 years. He was coaching that team, and that wasn't happening when he was there. But with these new head coaches, you got to kind of figure it out. It's a lot of snap count, stuff like that with the penalties. But yeah, they got to clean that up, because then the Niners might be 3-3, but the Seahawks are also 3-3. You have a chance to really make an impact in the NFC West, where it feels open for the first time in a while with this Niners team maybe taking that step back to start the season. Mm-hmm. And you kind of have to adapt and keep going with them. Yeah, absolutely. I think we've talked enough about the one important game from Thursday night last night. There may have been another important game that may have piqued your interest a little bit more. Jacob, can you talk a little bit about the Yankees and the Royals last night? Yeah, so my Yankees win the ALDS with a 3-1 series win over the Royals, and I think we can kind of go good, bad, and ugly for the Yankees from this series as well. So the good, Giancarlo Stanton, I want to even call him the great, 375 batting average, 1.132 OPS.
in multiple clutch moments, 4 RBIs, including that homer to put them up in Game 3. He is the best player in this lineup, without a doubt.
No doubt, yeah.
And he is going to continue. He has to continue doing it into the ALCS for them. Another good, Gleyber Torres. 8.67 OPS. He's been hitting the ball around a little bit, finally starting to figure it out in that leadoff spot. And then you want to talk about good. You want to talk about great. Arguably the biggest concern for me heading into this postseason for the Yankees was their bullpen. Mm-hmm. Brian Cashman didn't go out, make any real big moves to add to their pitching staff at the trade deadline. I was concerned about it, but the Yankees bullpen did not allow a single earned run for that entire series. That was, they just bear down. Mm-hmm. They did. Clay Holmes, who has been atrocious all year, most blown saves that I've seen in his career, maybe most in the league. He looked like prime Clay Holmes again, and that was refreshing to see. Luke Weaver, he's a bad man. He is so good. He is so good, and he is the true closer for this team. Yeah. Then you want to talk about the bad. And we'll start with Jazz Chisholm because he either has to stop talking or start backing it up. You can't have a 133 batting average and be talking to the Royals fans like that, getting into fights. We had benches clearing brawl last night.
That
over
was a lot.
Anthony Volpe patting Maikel Garcia, whatever. Yeah, don't celebrate too early,
right,
I bet.
Bottom of the 6th. It was.
Yeah.
Why are we coming out?
Yeah, I bet. But the biggest note for this Yankees team is Aaron Judge. And
I was going to ask you about this.
Aaron Judge has to figure it out. He has to. Mm-hmm. He had his first hit of the postseason last night in Game 4. Mm-hmm. If you're Aaron Judge, you have to show this fan base and show the front office why they paid you like they did, why they paid you like the captain of the New York Yankees. Mm-hmm. Once you're in the playoffs, nobody cares about the regular season. Nobody cares how many home runs you hit. People remember what you do in the postseason, what you did when the Yankees had one of their best teams of the last decade trying to chase ring number 28 for this organization. And a 207 career postseason batting average for Aaron Judge is not what this team needs. He is their captain. He has to lead, and you can't have him hitting in the 3 spot, hitting 207 with a 207 career batting average. Before last night, he was hitting 7. He had a 77 batting average in this season. That is just unacceptable. And then kind of in the middle, I guess Anthony Volpe, he's been hitting the ball real hard. It's been right at defenders. Looks like kind of like Austin Wells in the beginning of the season. Just an unlucky stretch from Volpe, but he's been good in the field, and I think that those balls start to get down in the ALCS. Yeah.
I am most curious, though, for you. It's so exciting, right? Like, you wait all season for this moment, and your team makes it. But as someone who's not particularly a Homer Yankees fan, Cincinnati Reds, so exciting.
They'll
had no chance. Yeah, maybe someday. A lot of the nation expects you guys to be at that point, right? To get to where you are right now. And now I feel like the pressure is even more, right? Now you got there, now you have to show up.
Yeah.
And I think the other piece of this too is, how does it feel that historically teams who have given you guys pressure at this point, the Astros, the Red Sox, they're nowhere to be seen.
They're nowhere to be seen. But we have the Guardians-Tigers Game 5 coming up. The Yankees will obviously play the winner of that. That's something that I am a little concerned about.
Sure,
because the Tigers, they just remind me so much. And anytime you have a team that shouldn't have made the playoffs, that just gets hot. And I think the Mets are what everyone thought the Tigers were going to be. But the Tigers they're not a bad team at all. They are a very talented, very hot team right now, and I would be worried. I would be worried playing the Tigers, probably more than Cleveland, honestly, because it reminds me of that 2019 Nationals team where you had Soto and you had Trey Turner and Bryce Harper, and they just got hot. Not Bryce Harper, but they just got hot at the right time, and they ended up going all the way.
Yeah.
And that kind of transitions us into the Mets, which we'll talk a little bit about now and a little bit after the break. But the Mets also, they win their NLDS series with a 3-1 win over the 3-1 series win over the Phillies. This is what I said. The beauty of the MLB is that the hottest team is the most dangerous.
That's a good one. Yeah.
The NBA doesn't have that. The best team wins every year. The NFL, similar but different. And the NHL, same thing. Like, the MLB is just, it's so unique in that sense. And there's some sort of magic happening in Queens right now that is simply unmatched. It's unmatched throughout the league, throughout the rest of the postseason. They have the hottest player in the league right now with Francisco Lindor. We'll talk a little bit about it more after the break.
Sure.
But this team is hot right now, and there's a chance that we have a Subway Series World Series, Maria, and that would be awesome for New York and awesome for the game of baseball. But we're going to go to break real quick. Newhouse Afternoon. We'll be back in just a few minutes.
You guys are clear?
Didn't want to start going off about the Mets quite
yet. It's great.
I'll be quick with them in the beginning of the next segment, and then we'll talk about the college football games.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah, wrap that up because me and my Mets knowledge is a little bit rusty.
Yeah, don't worry.
No, that's good. Good stuff.
Yeah, I don't
Really
need to
exciting.
honestly,
So
I don't
many
need to do my college football picks.
No, you absolutely can. I mean, I feel like the way you did them last time were great.
Yeah, I just kind of spit them out.
Yep. Absolutely, I love it.
Should we talk about I guess when I do the picks, we could talk about the Ole Miss game.
Yeah.
Ole Miss LSU.
I think we should.
Yeah, that's a big game.
I want you to have something that you really want to talk about in football.
I mean, that entire segment is just going to be me talking about how much I love Jackson Dart. So
it's great.
I got this glare. This glare is
I know, it's really, I know, when you're looking at me, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm so sorry. Oh, sorry. I keep hitting my ring on the table. It makes like a loud noise. Okie doke.
My computer's at 13%.
Oh, dear
Will it make it to the end of the show?
Who knows?
Hey, you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
So about 20 seconds after 2:55, I'm about to cut you guys off.
Okay.
To get to that point, I'll give you guys like a minute countdown, 30 seconds, and then 10 seconds. That's cool.
Cool.
Amazing.
I got the seconds thing up on my computer, so I can see when we're there. But I appreciate that.
Got it.
Thank you.
So I'll go through each matchup and I will probably ask you what you think about a prediction. You can at least pick a team.
I'll throw some scores in.
Team, yeah.
Actually, I'll just pick a team.
Whatever-
I can pick a
whatever you want,
side.
yeah.
You know what
Pick
I'll
a
do?
side, yeah.
I'll pull up the lines and I'll take a side of the bet.
Okay, love that.
It's a lot easier for me. Texas. I mean, 14.5 is so many points.
I know. Alrighty. Yeah, I'll do the 3 big ones and then I'll give a quick Notre Dame prediction.
You guys have a minute.
Amazing, thank you. Alright, so 2:55 we're out, right?
Yeah.
Great.
Seconds.
ESPN 97.7 and 100.1. Watch live on QSportsTalk.com. Tomorrow's broadcasting stars today.
Welcome back, Newhouse Afternoon. I'm Jacob Charno, joined with Maria Wainscott, back on ESPN 97.7 Syracuse and QSportsTalk.com. Real quick, right before break, we were talking about the Mets. Let's keep going with them because this, like we said, is one of the most electric teams left in the postseason. I legitimately believe that they can beat either the Padres or the Dodgers in a 7-game series. But you look at these players. I mean, Francisco Lindor, one of the most electric baseball players in the world right now. When he came up with the bases loaded in Game 4, there was just a feel that he could do it. And then he did. That go-ahead grand slam that ended up being the nail in the coffin for the Phillies. Mark Vientos had himself a postseason so far. .429 batting average, 1.181 OPS with 2 home runs, 7 RBIs is just unreal for a player like Vientos. This entire team has just been raking, top to bottom. Even Pete Alonso, who had a tough regular season, has played himself into probably a multi-million-dollar contract or tens of millions of dollars on his next deal with whatever team he goes to, whether that be with the Mets or somewhere else. The only thing with the Mets is if the Mets want a chance to keep rolling, especially against either the Padres or the Dodgers, which we'll find out tonight, this bullpen has to bear down. Other than that, I really don't see a reason why the Mets can't beat either of those teams and go to the World Series for the first time since 2015, right? Yeah.
It's so exciting. I mean, there's so much goodness going on in New York sports. I mean, we've got a lot of great stuff to talk about on the show. Like the next time we come back, I mean, it's really exciting. We've got the World Series
next
talk,
time we come back, it'll be the day of Game 1 of the World Series, which is very, very exciting. And hopefully it's Yankees-Mets. But let's transition a little bit into some fun college football for this weekend. Maria, I'll let you take over.
Man, it's the best part of the show, in my opinion. College football time. Okay, week 6 was bananas. Like, what happened?
Wild.
I mean, I went to Vegas and everything fell apart. Like, we had, for the first time since 1936, 4 teams in the top 11 were upset by unranked teams. Craziness.
Yeah.
Chaos. I mean, seriously, what happened? Vanderbilt?
I mean, my guy Diego Pavia just going in there and getting it done against Bama.
I mean, really?
Just getting it done.
I mean, Alabama, what happened? What happened, really? USC upsetting, Minnesota upsetting USC. What's up, PJ Fleck? I mean, seriously, coming in there. It's just so exciting. And then Washington beating Michigan. It's the rematch of that national title game. How exciting. And then one of the most important ones for Syracuse football, Miami almost lost to Cal, which was just such a well-matched matchup.
One of
right
the most
there.
wild games.
It was so exciting, and like down to the bitter end, which now this has happened twice in a row for Miami.
Yep.
So exciting to watch that game as someone who's not a fan, but I mean, wow. My doctor probably wouldn't want me watching more of that football. It's just,
that
it's
was
too
stressful.
much.
That took years off my life.
But it really does show, like, those are the areas, the pockets of concern that Syracuse could really capitalize on. So I've really enjoyed watching some of our competition go up against one another. It gives us really good film to check out before we go up against either of those teams. But hey, Week 7 looking forward. It's going to be another weekend of madness. Some of the best college football that we've seen all year so far. The Buckeyes and the Ducks meet for the first time this season. It's number 2 versus number 3. And the biggest storyline to know is that this is the biggest game of the year so far. Now, we said this again when it was Bama, Georgia, but seriously, now we've got 2 teams in the top 3 playing against each other. And this hasn't happened in a long time. It's really exciting. And we've got a lot of playmakers on both sides. I'm super excited to see what happens, but in my opinion, I do think it's going to be a battle of the lines. Ohio State's offensive line versus the elite Oregon Ducks defensive line. We've got NFL caliber players on both sides, so I'm really excited to see what happens. That's a primetime game Saturday night on NBC at 7:30. I am projecting Ohio State 31, Oregon 28. Jacob, what are you thinking?
I like that prediction. I'm looking at the bet of it. I like Ohio State money line at -156. I think there's good value there, and I think that they're just a better coached, better team than Oregon. And I think the Buckeyes get it done on the road.
Absolutely. There's big pressure on Ryan Day for this one. I can already hear the Buckeyes upset if there's anything that goes wrong for Ohio State in this game. Now we got the Red River rivalry, one of the best games in college football every year, even though the Oklahoma Sooners are ranked 18th, and we've got number 1 Texas going up against them. It's going to be crazy. 3:30 on ABC, and the does Texas handle Quinn Ewers' return? We had an elite backup in Arch Manning step up over the last couple weeks. And I mean, he had a 90.4 grade this season in passing, according to PFF. So exciting. And Ewers is now back and healthy, but with Manning's performance, he had so many people wondering, is this a quick hook for the redshirt junior to just, step up and take Ewers' spot, especially if he doesn't perform well over an Oklahoma defense, which is absolutely dominant. And the matchup to watch for me is when Oklahoma has the ball, freshman quarterback Michael Hawkins Jr. versus the nation's leading coverage unit.
There's so many freshman quarterbacks starting this week.
So exciting. It's going to be really something exciting to watch. And then when Texas has the ball, let's watch this matchup. Can Oklahoma consistently generate pressure? With Texas, we've got Arch Manning, we've got Quinn Ewers, two of the best quarterbacks in the nation when they are not pressured. In a clean pocket, they can, if they have any time at all, they can get rid of that ball down the field, and they're explosive threats, especially down in the backfield. So if Oklahoma can generate pressure, that's the key to their game. My prediction for this game, Texas 31, Oklahoma 14. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I love that. I think the thing that makes Texas so dangerous that you saw with Arch Manning in there is that it goes past the quarterback.
Yep.
And they're so talented at every spot on that team. And whether it's Ewers, whether it's Manning, it doesn't matter. Texas, I'll take the minus 14.5 all day for them against Oklahoma.
Dominant. All right, I've got one more big-time matchup. Then, of course, I've got to get to my homer team, Notre Dame. But we're going to talk about number 4 Penn State, the Nittany Lions, at the USC Trojans, 3:30 on CBS. The biggest storyline to know, will a cross-country road matchup hurt Penn State like it has for so many others? The realignment conversation is something we have talked about quite a bit on this show. It's made the entire country, be the playing field instead of specific regions, and it's been so difficult for some schools who are being forced to travel 3 time zones to play a game on Saturday. We've seen this affect top teams as recently as this past weekend. Then number 10 Michigan lost to unranked Washington. They traveled more than 2,300 miles to Seattle for that. One of the teams in this game, then USC number 11, lost to Minnesota, as we mentioned, traveled 2,000 miles to Minneapolis, and then obviously Miami traveled more than 3,000 miles to California to almost get upset by the Golden Bears. Craziness. And now Penn State is traveling across 3 time zones and nearly 2,800 miles to Los Angeles to take on USC. So that's going to be crazy. Drew Aller is just like the highest of caliber quarterback, in my opinion. He's got great weapons. They've got great defense in Katron Allen. I mean, it's so exciting. I'm taking Penn State 28 over USC 21, but I think any issues we would foresee would be due to the fact of this realignment travel schedule.
I agree. I like Penn State minus 3.5 in this one. I think they, despite the travel schedule, which I think will affect them, if anything, I think they still get it done. I'll take the minus 3.5.
Absolutely. And also, Penn State's defensive line dominates, right? They're going to hand USC their 3rd loss in 4 games, completely eliminating their chances of making the playoff. It's a big-time game. All right, real quick, got to give my Notre Dame prediction. Number 12 Notre Dame versus an all-too-familiar opponent for Syracuse football, the Stanford Cardinal. Notre Dame holds a 22-14 record all-time against the Cardinal, and Notre Dame won last year over them, so they have their number. However, 2 years ago, Stanford came into town in a very similar matchup. It was the epitome of a trap game. Notre Dame lost to Marshall first game of the season. They carry all of our hopes back as fans, and then they lose to Stanford. It's a very similar situation as we lost to NIU early on in the season. Now our hopes have been built back up after a few big wins, especially over ranked Louisville. And now here we are, ultimate trap game. I'm still taking Notre Dame 31 over the Stanford Cardinal 28, but it's a little bit closer because I think Notre Dame needs to learn how to throw that ball. I mean, Riley Leonard, if you can't throw the ball against one of the worst secondaries in college football, what are you doing? That's the end of our playoff hopes, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I'll give you my college football picks. I got 3 real quick. Georgia Tech money line minus 180 at UNC. UNC, it just seems like it keeps getting worse for them. Wyoming money line versus SDSU. Wyoming's just a gritty bunch. I like them against San Diego State. And then my guy Jack Start, I think he gets the job done in Louisiana. I like Ole Miss money line at LSU too. I might even take them with the minus 3.5 with the points. I just think that team is so talented. Jack Start was my pick to win the Heisman before the season. I think Ole Miss not only makes the playoffs, but I think they bear down and they have a chance at the Natty. But we will see. That might be ambitious. I am a big Ole Miss guy. So we have that. And then real quick for Sunday, we have an NFL parlay. I'm taking the Bears money line at minus 120 versus the Jaguars. That game is in London. Lions money line at minus 180 against the Cowboys, and I'll take the Jets at home plus 2.5 against the Buffalo Bills.
That was a lot of information. I am very excited that we got to go through that. Maria, I appreciate you joining me as always.
Yes.
Newhouse Afternoon, ESPN 97.7 Syracuse, NQSportsTalk.com. We'll be back with more.